The fluorescent lights of the Sterling Sleep Clinic hummed with an almost meditative drone, reflecting off the polished linoleum floor. Dr. Eris, a man whose smile was a little too wide, and his assistant, Maria, with eyes that seemed perpetually calm, greeted me with an unsettling enthusiasm. "Alex, so glad you could join us," Dr. Eris boomed, extending a hand that felt oddly cold. "Volunteering for the Advanced REM Cycle Synchronicity Study is a truly altruistic act. And the $5,000, of course." He winked. I forced a smile. $5,000 for a few nights of sleep? My landlord would be pleased. My mild, intermittent insomnia made me a perfect candidate, they'd said. I signed the last of the consent forms, a stack thicker than a phone book, and tried not to read the fine print about unforeseen neurological phenomena, or extended observation periods. It was standard medical jargon, right? My room was stark but comfortable. A single bed, a small bedside table, a chair. The walls were a pale, soothing blue. A thick, soundproofed door with no handle on the inside. Maria explained it was to ensure absolute quiet and prevent outside disturbances. "We want to guarantee the purest sleep environment, Alex," she'd explained, her voice as soft as a lullaby. Before bed, she attached a dizzying array of electrodes to my scalp, temples, and chest. The wires felt like cold spaghetti. "Just a little scratchy at first," she'd chirped. "You won't even notice them once you drift off." She gave me a small, clear glass of water and a single white pill. Routine sleep aid, to help you adjust to the new environment. That first night, I fell into the deepest, most dreamless sleep of my life. I woke feeling utterly, profoundly rested. My mind felt like a perfectly clear pane of glass. It was exhilarating. Dr. Eris was delighted. Maria recorded my vitals with quiet efficiency. Breakfast arrived through a small, rotating pass-through slot. Lukewarm oatmeal, a piece of fruit, juice. "No outside contact for the duration of the initial phase," Dr. Eris reminded me. "Pure data collection." The second night was similar. The third, too. Each morning I felt phenomenal, an almost unnatural surge of vitality. But a subtle strangeness began to creep in. I started losing track of the days. I'd ask Maria, "Is it Wednesday or Thursday?" She'd always respond with a gentle, "Just relax, Alex. Focus on your rest. It's all part of the process." Her smile was too practiced, too placid. My dreams became incredibly vivid. Not nightmares, at least not at first, but hyper-realistic scenarios. I'd dream of walking through my old neighborhood, feeling the sun on my face, hearing specific conversations with old friends. Then I'd wake up, the details so sharp they'd bleed into my waking moments, making the sterile clinic room feel less real than the dreamscape I'd just left. I tried to keep track of time by scratching tally marks on the underside of my bedside table, hidden from the ceiling camera. Every morning, I'd add a new one. But sometimes, I'd wake up and the marks would be gone, or the number wouldn't make sense. I'd sworn I'd made 5, but there would only be 3. Or 7. My memory felt like a sieve. The food, initially bland, started to taste metallic, synthetic. The air, too, felt thin, over-filtered. I tried to look out the single frosted window, but it offered no view, just an opaque blur. I felt an odd, persistent weight in my limbs, a heavy inclination toward sleep, even when I wasn't tired. "Dr. Eris," I said one morning, my voice raspy. "How long have I been here? I'm feeling a bit disoriented." He paused, a needle poised over a blood sample. His expression shifted, the overly jovial mask slipping to reveal something colder, more clinical. "Alex, you're experiencing some typical minor sleep-wake cycle disruption. It's a common side effect of extended deep sleep. We're working towards some fascinating breakthroughs. Just a little longer." "A little longer? How long is a little longer?" I demanded, a tremor in my voice. "My study was supposed to be 7 nights max." He chuckled, a dry, papery sound. "Alex, the initial phase was 7 nights. You're now in phase 2, as outlined in the consent forms you signed. We're exploring the long-term effects of optimized REM cycles. It's quite groundbreaking. I remembered the thick stack of papers, the fine print. My stomach churned. The subtle shifts escalated. The whispers started. Faint, breathy sounds from the air vents. Not words exactly, but a soft, sibilant murmur, like many voices speaking just beyond comprehension. I'd hear creaks in the walls that weren't there before, see fleeting shadows dance in my peripheral vision, gone the moment I turned my head. Was it my mind? Was I losing it? I tried to bang on the door, but the soundproofing swallowed everything. It felt like I was screaming into a pillow. No one came. Maria would just appear at the pass-through slot at her usual times, a glass of water and a pill in hand, her smile unchanging. "Time for your evening sedative, Alex. Rest well." I started refusing the pill. I hid it under my tongue, then spat it out into the toilet. I fought the overwhelming urge to sleep. I paced. I did push-ups until my arms ached. I tried to read the small instruction manual for the bedside lamp, anything to keep my mind engaged. But the drowsiness was immense, a heavy, invisible hand pressing down on my eyelids. It was like fighting gravity. Eventually, my body would betray me. I'd slump onto the bed, dragged down into the darkness. One morning, I woke up in a different room entirely. Cold, clinical, reeking of antiseptic. My arms and legs were strapped to a metal table. More wires than I could count sprouted from my head, leading to a complex array of humming machinery. Dr. Eris and Maria were there, but their faces were gaunt, almost skeletal, their eyes sunken. Their movements were jerky, unnatural. Or was it just my vision? "Subject 7 is showing optimal neural activity," Maria murmured, her voice distorted, buzzing like a fly. "Excellent," Dr. Eris rasped, his face close to mine. His breath smelled like old pennies. The perfect candidate. So much potential. I tried to scream, but my throat was raw, dry. My mouth barely opened. I tried to thrash, but my limbs felt like lead weights. "Don't worry, Alex," Dr. Eris purred, stroking my forehead with a finger that felt like sandpaper. "You're doing so well, providing invaluable data." Then, everything blurred. The metallic smell faded. The straps vanished. I was back in my pale blue room, the familiar electrodes itchy on my scalp, the taste of synthetic oatmeal in my mouth. It was a dream then, a nightmare. The clinical room, the straps, their faces, all a product of my sleep-deprived, disoriented mind. A wave of relief washed over me, quickly followed by a crushing despair. How long had I really been here? I looked at my hand. My forearm was alarmingly thin. My fingers trembled. I looked at my reflection in the dark, frosted window panel. Not the Alex who volunteered for $5,000. This was a pale, haunted stranger with sunken eyes and a desperate, skeletal face. My hair was longer, unkempt. Maria appeared at the pass-through, her serene smile unwavering. "Good evening, Alex. Time for your sedative." "I'm not taking it," I croaked, trying to push myself up. My body protested, muscles aching from disuse. She simply tilted her head. "Oh, but you will, Alex. You always do." Her eyes, usually placid, seemed to hold a flicker of something ancient, something that knew me intimately, something that had seen countless others like me. The compulsion returned, stronger than before. It wasn't just physical drowsiness. It was as if my very consciousness was being pulled, dragged down, by an invisible current. My eyelids felt impossibly heavy. My thoughts became sluggish, muddy. I fought. I really did. I clenched my fists, stared at a spot on the wall, tried to hum a song to keep myself awake. But the force was overwhelming. My head lolled forward. The room spun. Darkness enveloped me. Not like sleep, but like falling into an abyss. I woke. Sunlight streamed into my familiar apartment bedroom. My own bed, my own duvet. No sterile blue walls, no humming machinery, no electrodes. I sat bolt upright, heart hammering. It was a nightmare. A prolonged, horrifying nightmare. I was home. I was finally, truly awake. My phone lay on the bedside table. I tentatively picked it up. Dozens of missed calls. Texts from friends, then family. Alex, where are you? Are you okay? We're worried sick. The clinic said you checked out weeks ago. Weeks? My last message was dated nearly 6 months ago. 6 months. I'd been in that study for 6 months? Panic clawed at my throat. I stumbled out of bed. My legs felt weak, like rubber. I barely made it to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror. My face was gaunt, true. My hair was long, but my eyes, they weren't sunken anymore. They looked normal, healthy even. A bit tired, maybe. But I was me. Relief, so potent it made my knees buckle, washed over me. It was over. I was out. I was home. I splashed water on my face. The cold shock felt real. So real. As I dried my face, my fingers brushed against something behind my right ear. A tiny, almost imperceptible raised scar, half hidden by my hairline. And from the scar, a faint, almost invisible wire, thinner than a strand of hair, seemed to disappear into my nape, just under the skin. I froze. My breath hitched. I tried to trace it, but it was too deep, too perfectly merged with my flesh. A soft, clear voice, calm and soothing, seemed to emanate not from outside, but from within my own head. Good morning, Alex. Are you feeling well rested? We're so pleased with your progress. A subtle, rhythmic beep, beep, beep sounded in the periphery of my hearing. Faint, persistent, like a distant heart monitor. My eyes darted around my apartment, every detail suddenly too crisp, too perfect. The sunlight was a little too golden. The dust motes in the air shimmered with an unnatural vibrancy. I tried to scream. No sound. My mouth opened, but only a dry, silent gasp escaped. My body felt heavy again, leaden, just like in the clinical room. The apartment, my life, this waking up. It was the final, deepest layer of the dream, the most elaborate trap. I wasn't awake. I was in a perfect, induced simulation. The study hadn't ended. It had just begun, and I could never, ever wake up.